All right, so let's say that you're interested in figuring out if your distribution of data from a certain stock is normal or not. That is, if the mean is the same as the median and mode, and if the returns, both positive and negative, are more or less symmetrical around the mean. What you're going to need to do first is figure out what the returns actually were on a certain stock for a given number of years. And so I looked up Ford historical stock returns. Ford is kind of an older company. It's older than, for example, Google or Facebook, which, although listed on the stock market, have only been around since about 2000 to 2010, and therefore are not going to have enough data to really get a good look at what's actually going on. Ford has been listed since the 70s, and so gives you a better sense. So I looked up Ford historical returns. This website, One Stock One, has a nice set of data that we can use. We're going to be particularly interested in the percent gain or loss. This has to do with the fact that the gain or loss tends to change over time, given the fact that the stock price goes up, and so it doesn't tell us quite as much as the percent gain or loss. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all of the data like this. We're going to copy it, and then we're going to go to Google Sheets, which is like kind of basically the equivalent of Excel. And we're going to create a new spreadsheet, and we're going to paste our data into the spreadsheet. We're going to kind of do it a few cells to the right and down, which is going to give us some room to put a few more pieces of data here. We're going to delete all of this stuff, and then we can also go over here and say delete rows 3 through 11 to bring our stuff up like that. So then we'll move this over so we kind of can see what it exactly is saying. Beginning price, any price gain or loss, and this, of course, that's the last one, is the one we're interested in, percent gain or loss. So what we're going to do first is we're going to calculate a few of the things that we can see in the data. Okay, so first of all, we could find the min or the max. The way that we're going to do this is use the function tab. On Google Sheets, the easiest way to do this, to find the function of the minimum, is to click equals, like the equal sign, and then type in the function we're going to use, in this case min. A list of a bunch of different things will come up. They kind of indicate what they will do for you. In this case, we're going to use minimum. These functions are essentially like a calculator function for the spreadsheet, except that you can use actual data from the spreadsheet to do the function, which can be really useful if you have a really long list of numbers that you want to quickly find the minimum of without actually having to look at each number. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with G4, right? G4. That's the percent gain or loss. And you can actually just click on it, and then you go down to the bottom of the list. In this case, we're at G46. And we click on it again, but actually we want to use everything in between. So we're going to say G4, and then we're going to put a colon there, and we're going to say G46. And that highlights the entire list, okay? Then we click Enter, and it will tell us the minimum value, which was negative 65%, which is quite a bit, right? So we'll just type minimum next to that so we remember what that actually meant. We'll do the same for maximum, so we'll say equal and say max. So basically this is like using a calculator, except that it's getting a list of data. So again, we're going to find the maximum value from G4 all the way to G46. So we're going to say max, parentheses, G4. We're going to click that colon again. We're going to say G46. We're going to enter, and it's going to give us our max. 330% in 1 year. Wow, that is a huge increase. Anyways, that's kind of an outlier, and that kind of is a first indication that the data may not be normally distributed, which is something you may come to realize for the stock that you choose as well. Now we can also find the median, so we can say equals median right there, okay, and again G4 to G46, enter, the median is 2.97, type in median. We can do the same for mean, although as I found out, it's actually not listed as mean, it's listed as average. So we're going to click average, it's the same as mean. Again, G4 to G46, okay. Now this, I think, really tells us a lot, which is that the mean is quite a bit higher than the median, and I think that really has to do with those maximum values. We can also find the third and first quartile, so we say equals quartile, not quartile, quartile. And in this case, we're going to have to actually put in one extra piece of information, which is the quartile number. So there's not a first and a third quartile, but rather there's quartile, and we list which quartile we want. So we'll start with the first quartile. So again, we're going to do G4 to G46. But because we want that first quartile, we're going to type in 1, which tells us we want the first quartile. Okay, we click Enter, and the first quartile is a negative 13% return, which is quite low. We're then going to find the third quartile, and I can type in third quartile here. So again, we're going to click equals, and we're going to say quartile. You click Enter, then G4 to G46, but in this case, we're going to click third because it's the third quartile, so we got that 3 there after the comma, and then click Enter, and then we've got 34. So the third quartile, the 75th percent marker, is 34% return on investment, which is quite a bit. So this starts to give us some sense of basically what this data looks like, right? We've got our minimum, maximum. We see that our mean and our median are not quite the same, which tells us it's skewed, and then the first and third quartile are quite different. The other thing we can find is the standard deviation, which is useful. The computer can very quickly calculate that. It would take us a very long time to do it by hand. And we're going to do the same thing. Equals standard deviation. It's basically the first one that comes up. And we're basically going to just do that G4 to G46 again, and it's going to give us the standard deviation for that whole data set, which in this case is 63%. Wow, that is a very high standard deviation given that the median and mean are 2.97% and 14%. Now you'll notice the first and third quartile as well as the standard deviation are given in decimal, while the others are given in percent. So we need to implicitly put that number over 2 spaces to get the same in all of them. So this is 13.76%, 34%, 63.7%. All right, so that's the end of the first video.